Sp4zie and plenty.
Hello YouTube, Sp4zie coming right at you. Welcome to another champion preview. This time around we are taking a look at Taliyah, the Stone Weaver, and that's exactly what she is. Looks like one of those earthbenders from Avatar. She is a controlly, pretty high utility roaming mage, and as per usual with these videos, my ambition is to provide, total clarity as to how the skill set works, so let's just start straight away with the passive. It is called rock surfing, and it gives you a nice chunk of movement speed when you're moving close to a wall. It only happens when you're out of combat, and it does work on structures as well as terrain, so you can sort of like loop around the turret and proc it. And this passive provides Taliyah with a nice way of getting back into lane, but it also serves as one of her primary ways of roaming from mid, for instance, and ganking other lanes without losing too much time. Let's move on to the Q, Threaded Volley. This is an ability where you throw 5 rocks in a target direction and they deal damage in a small area effect where they hit. And when you cast this, it feels very familiar to the Taric stun, where you can sort of move around after you've cast it in order to try and hit your targets. The most interesting part about this ability, however, is that when you've used it, you create a little circle on the ground, and if you cast your Q again while standing on this, it will only fire 1 projectile that costs half the mana. You will also get a nice little movement speed buff while moving on this so-called worked ground. So it's a bit of a balanced game. If you cover your whole lane with this worked ground, you will indeed reduce your potential damage output, but it will also provide you with a bit more utility. So yeah, a little bit of a give and take and a pretty unique thing. The W is called Seismic Shove, and the size of it is kind of like a Sp4zie. You target a small circle on the ground, and after a short delay, it will knock up anyone who's standing in that circle. You can also press it again in any direction to trigger the ability to throw them that way, which is indeed what you're probably going to do most of the time. This ability is pretty straightforward. It does have some nice synergy with the E, so let's just move on to that. It is called Unravelled Earth. It's a very weird looking ability, I gotta say. You put out a little minefield of rocks that initially deals damage, and then it also slows enemies' hit when you cast it. And then after a long time, I think it's like 4 seconds or something, they will explode again and deal even more damage. Now, if you dash through these traps, it will also trigger them to explode, and it will deal damage for each stone you sort of pass through, which results in tons of damage, as Freak would say. Now, being pushed or pulled through these also triggers it, which has direct synergy with your W. So what you want to do is you want to lay down these traps, use the initial slow to hit them with the W and push them back into the traps, trigger that damage, and then follow that out with the Q and watch them suffer. And I was actually surprised as to how much damage that did, but then again, the ultimate Weaver's Wall is a non-damaging ability. So what is it? Well, the best way to describe it is a global Anivia wall. There you go. At max rank, it feels like it reaches across the entire map. When you've created it, it's going to stay there for like 6 seconds, but you can decide to deactivate it by pressing R again, and then it'll disappear, so you don't have to lock your friend list in somewhere. But most importantly, if you double tap this bad boy when you cast it, Taliyah will sort of board the wall and fly with it across the freaking map. You can click somewhere to jump off whenever you feel like it. If you take damage, you also immediately fall off. But as you can probably tell, there's a lot of ways you can use this ultimate. You can use it to gank a mobile lane. Let's say there's an MF and, I don't know, a Taric bot lane and they don't have flash up. Well, you can just roam through river with your passive and then just ult to block their retreat path to the turret, resulting in a 3v2 that they sort of have to fight. I see a lot of big plays happening around Dragon and Baron potentially, where you'll probably use it without jumping on the wall and ride with it to just block people in the pit to set up, the AoE combo, etc. And all that aside, you can always use it to get back to lane if you're a scrubber like me. Overall, I'm pretty darn excited about this. The W feels very similar to the Sp4zie, so I'm down for that. I love mages that can shove, I love playing them. And I feel like Taliyah sort of like has what Aurelian's Soul was lacking for me, which was frequent spell casting. After a bit of CDR, you're going to be throwing out that Q and that E very frequently, controlling the fights with your AoE, and that feels very much the way I like to play mages. So honestly, I cannot wait for this to be live. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Also, if you do have a question, post them down below. Either I or one of my fellow viewers will get to him. I hope this video gave you a little bit of clarity as to how she works, and if it did, you can always award me with a little like. Subscribe to the channel as well. I release 3 videos a week. You won't be disappointed. And for now, this has been Sp4zie, and I'm out. Do it!